Hey everyone, Ms. Dempsey here. This is a guide for round 3 of the Nations Cup. Let's get this started. Your first braking point will be the 2 sign on the left. Brake hard for a short moment, then slowly ease off on the brakes so you can let the car turn while it is still slowing down. Slowly start to accelerate so you can get the car to still rotate a little bit more. Then brake before you reach the 1 marker, and you want to go for a light apex before you start to fully accelerate. Bring yourself to the right and brake before you reach the 1 sign that is on the right. You'll brake hard for a moment, then ease off on the brakes to get the car to rotate. And once again, just slowly start to accelerate so the car can still have a little bit of mobility to rotate. And once again, brake before you reach the 1 sign. Get the car to rotate as quickly as possible by slowly easing off on the brakes. Depending on your torque distribution, it is possible to start to fully accelerate just a little bit early to get the car to rotate a little bit more. When you reach the 2 sign, brake hard for a moment, slowly ease off on the brakes, slowly start to accelerate and bring yourself to the left. In between the 2 and the 1 sign on the left, brake hard for a moment, ease off on the brakes, take advantage of the apex, and then you can slowly start to accelerate. Stay on the left side because you want to brake before you reach the 1 sign. You can also take advantage of this apex that is coming up, but you want to make sure that you slow down just enough so you don't end up making contact with the grass on the left. Brake before you reach the 1 sign, take advantage of the inside of the turn as it will help your car rotate a little bit more. Bring yourself to the left and brake just after you pass the 2 sign that is on the left. Brake hard for a moment, slowly ease off on the brakes to get the car to rotate, slowly accelerate once again, and you want to bring yourself to the right if you know you have a good lap time. But otherwise, that is all for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and talk about the strategies. For the qualifying session, you only have 5 minutes to try to get qualifying time. If you recall what I said in the qualifying session for the last manufacturer video on Suzuka, it's going to be a very similar story to that. So this track is very narrow, narrower than that of Suzuka. So you basically want to see what everyone else is doing and basically follow them. We do have a couple of people that are fuel burning, but most of the people in this lobby are just going for it, so we're eventually going to go ahead and follow them. One thing that you need to remember is that for this qualifying and the actual race itself, the slipstream is going to be on weak instead of real. So the slipstream is going to be a little bit stronger, obviously. So what you want to do is make sure that you have plenty of space between yourself and the car ahead of you. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're still within that 1.5 second gap. So when you're going through some of these straights like right here, you're able to go even faster than you normally would without the slipstream. So that way it will help you out on your qualifying times. And the other thing is that you are on sports soft tires, so you're not going to have all the grip that you need to try to just fly through some of these turns. So your first qualifying time might be a little bit awkward, but luckily you'll have one more chance to try to get that good lap. So your first lap will be your out lap, and then you will have 2 more laps to try to get a good qualifying time. So over here we're just going to be trying to get into that slipstream, but we're going to be getting a little bit close and we're actually having a bit of an awkward time just trying to get used to how this car handles on sports soft tires. And we're just going to go ahead and speed on by, and we're going to get an okay time. I made a couple mistakes here and there, and I felt like I was a little bit too close to the car ahead of me, so I feel like I had to slow down just a little bit, which ended up hurting my time. So once again, you just want to make sure that you give yourself and the car ahead of you plenty of space so you can slowly catch up to them, but not catch up too much to the point where you're right behind them. So yeah, so make sure you take a look around you when you start your qualifying session. See what everyone else is doing. If most of the people in your lobby are fuel burning, just join them And if most people in your lobby are just going for it, join them, because you don't want to be the odd one out and it potentially run into traffic or ruin the qualifying times of those around you and just start clashing with each other. As for the race strategy itself, it is definitely possible to do this whole race without having to go to the pit stop. So the fuel is going to be an issue, but what you want to do is basically shift when the bar on the bottom of the screen is around 75 to 85% full. If you shift around there throughout the race, you should be fine in terms of fuel. As for the tires, they'll last you just long enough to be able to do the entire race on that set of tires. And you want to make sure that you take pretty darn good care of your tires, so don't slide around too much, don't scrub your tires too much. And for turns like these, you can actually shift a little bit early as you exit the turn. That way you can reduce the amount of wheel spin that you're getting, which will help lengthen the tire life just a little bit more. And that little bit can definitely come a long way, especially towards the end of the race. So don't forget that the slipstream is on weak, so we're about to see that we're going to be on a drag race with this car on the right, and we're going to end up on the slipstream of the car ahead of us, so we're just going to go ahead and fly on by. We just got a free ticket to second place. So yeah, so don't forget that the slipstream is on weak, which can definitely help you get some of those good overtakes. So we're going to skip on over to the end of the race and just take a look at the tire wear on the bottom left hand corner of the screen. So we do have some good tire wear, so the car is going to be a little bit more sketchy, and in this case the car is going to be a little bit more understeery, especially in turns like these. It'll be a bit harder for the car to rotate around the turn, so you just want to brake a little bit earlier. Just be nice and patient with your inputs, especially your throttle inputs, since these cars, the Group B cars, are four-wheel drive. Depending on your torque distribution, your car might become a bit more understeery, so you want to be a bit more aware of that. Speaking of torque distribution, you can pull this menu up by pressing up or down on the D-pad on your PlayStation 4 controller. Just press one of those buttons and it keeps going up or down until this menu pops up. So what this menu does is that it controls the amount of torque that goes onto the front and the rear of your car. So for the time trial and for the race, I had the power or the torque distribution going 30% towards the front of the car, 70% towards the back of the car. So that way the car can still be pretty stable, but I can still get the car to rotate around the corners a little bit. The furthest you can go towards the front is 50%, so it'll be 50-50, and that will make the car pretty stable, but at the same time it'll be a bit more understeery. However, if you bring it all the way to the right, it'll be 10% towards the front of the car and 90% power going towards the back of the car. So this will make the car a little bit more lively, a bit more prone to oversteer. So you want to be a little bit more careful if you decide to bring the torque distribution all the way to the right. And one last thing that I would like to talk about is the very start of the race. So we do have a grid start with a false start check, so make sure you have some input on the brakes before the lights go off. Traction control to 1 so your wheels don't spin too much, and off we go. So you want to then bring the traction control back to 0 or to whatever you are used to, and bring the radar screen up. That way you have an idea of what cars are around you, so you don't end up turning in on them by accident and end up getting a few people, well, upset at you. And as long as you're shifting within that 75 to 85% range, you don't have to worry about checking how much fuel percentage you have left. The only time I would suggest that you can check it is if no one is behind you and if you are going in a straight line. So of course don't check it while you're going through a turn because you're going to get distracted that way. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this guide. And some of you might be asking, oh hey, you're back at doing Nations Guides again. What made you stop back then? So back then I had to juggle real life responsibilities, the daily race guides, which is my main series, and the manufacturer series guides. So when I was doing the Nations Cup guides back then, I felt like I was going to get burnt out, so I decided, okay, I'm just going to drop the Nations Cup guides. But recently, with the virus outbreak going on and my state recently ordering the closure of all non-essential businesses, that put me out of a job. So now I have more time to mess around with, so I can pretty much just go back to doing Nations Cup guides again without worrying about getting burnt out for now. And yeah, so I mean, it's crazy, but I'm just trying to keep my head cool, or keep myself cool. I don't know how you say that, but yeah, so Nations Cup guides are back for now. Once everything's back to normal, we'll talk about what we'll have to do next. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So take care, everyone. Wash your hands, don't touch your face, do the whole social distancing thing. And yeah, so that's all I got to say. Take care, everyone. I'll see you in the next video.